Welcome to this ESS revision video on 3.2 origins, even not oranges, of biodiversity. And today I'll be looking at two areas, speciation and then extinction. So first of all, to understand speciation, you need to understand evolution. So evolution is the gradual change of an organism to suit its environment. And this happens due to the process called natural selection. And this happens because individuals originally in a population will show a wide range of variation. This happens due to mutations. The mutations occur at random changes in DNA, which you don't need to worry about. Then what happens is you get different individuals with different characteristics, and the ones with the best characteristics due to their genes are more likely to survive and breed, and this then means this gene or allele, which is a version of a gene, is passed on to the next generation. So if we want to use this, we can use this to explain, for example, how giraffes have evolved long necks. So giraffes have evolved due to natural selection. They showed a wide range of variation originally. Some giraffes would have had long necks, some giraffes would have had short necks. This then is due to mutations, and then the ones with long necks were more likely to survive and breed, and they passed on their long neck allele or gene to the next generation, and so on and so on. So we can link this then to speciation, how a new species evolves. And the main type you will need to know is allopatric or geographical isolation. So here you can see there's different lions in this area, and the mutation has caused some lions to be blue, but they're still in the same population to start off with. However, then what happens is a geographical isolation occurs, and on one side of the river, the lions that are blue have a bigger advantage for whatever reason, whatever abiotic factors are there, and the other side is the ones that are brown. So over thousands of years then, the blue ones would breed together only, and the brown ones would breed together only, and any brown ones over here would die out, any blue ones over here would die out because they're not in favourable conditions. Over millions of years or thousands of years, they would breed together, and then if they were able to mix again in the future, they would no longer be able to produce fertile offspring, because a species is a group of similar organisms that can breed together to make fertile offspring. So let's look at an example. It shows you two species of shrimp, which are living either side of the middle of America, Central America, and the one species lives in the warmer Atlantic water, and the other species lives in the colder Pacific water. And they've been separated due to changing sea levels, leading to this land barrier in the middle. So how would you answer this question? Well, I would suggest you answer it like this, and this could be applied to any example. The original population, when they were mixed, had genetic variations due to mutations. They were then separated due to geographical isolation of the new landmass. On either side, there were then different conditions, meaning different alleles, which is a type of gene, were advantageous. And natural selection occurred on both sides, making them develop different characteristics over generations, and there was no gene flow between the population because of this landmass between them. This then meant that over generations they became separate species, and if they were mixed together now, they could not breed to make fertile offspring. The second type of geographical isolation is called sympatric isolation. Now, I don't think you'll need this in your exam, but this is an example where it's speciation without geographical isolation. So if you look at this example here, explain why the maggot fly evolved into two species when the apple trees are planted in the same area as the hawthorns. So how could you answer this question? Well, you can start off by saying originally there was this one food source, and there was mutation causing genetic variation between these individuals that lived in the same area. So over population there was genetic variation. Apples were then introduced, and some hawthorns preferred to lay their eggs in those apples, and they looked for mates that hatched in the fruit that hatched in. Mutations then occurred, so the two alleles frequencies changed over time, And basically the ones that were born in the apples reproduced in the apples, so they ended up reproducing in the same group, and the ones that were born in the hawthorns tend to reproduce in the hawthorns, so they looked to reproduce in different areas. Genes did not flow between the two, and they adapted to suit their conditions better. So over generations then, they could not interbreed and then would not make fertile offspring if mixed together. As I said, I would learn the geographical one as a. Now we know that new species arise, and we can look at how new species arise from evolutionary evidence such as fossils. And one area is the large flightless birds, and this can show us a couple of different key. So we feel that large flightless birds, their fossils were originally found in Gondwana. Gondwana being this area here in the past where Africa, South America, Antarctica, Australia and India were all connected before they separated due to continental shift. And we know this because fossil records show us that similar animals lived together in those areas that don't necessarily. We can also see that mammals have evolved and evolved into new species, because if we look at the fossil record, we could see that marsupial animals both lived in Gondwana, and as they survived in Australia because the separation from the rest of the landmass, it is placenta mammals that have survived in Africa. This in East Africa, looking at the three main lakes of Lake Tanganyika, Lake Victoria and Lake Malawi. They have a huge variety of similar fish that have evolved to suit the conditions, and originally there would have been one species that lived in all lakes which were connected together. And the evidence of this all comes from fossil records, and this also proves about continental drift, that we can prove that not only they look like they fit together because of the jigsaw, the area here, the fossils were the same across this area, the fossils are the same all across this area here. And why does this happen? Well, it happens because of plate boundaries, and what happens is the heat pushes up from the mantle against the tectonic plates of the Earth, causing them to move apart or move together, and that led to continental drift of the Earth. Now, you also need to know about mass extinction and what could lead to mass extinction. Now, you need to know there is something called a background extinction rate, and that is that naturally, without humans, animals and species would go extinct. However, it is estimated that we are somewhere between, we are much higher than the background extinction rate. And roughly there are 100 million species on Earth. The background extinction rate should be about 1 to 10 species every year. However, we know it's much greater than that. Now, if you look at the causes of previous mass extinctions, the causes might have changed. So it might be global cooling, sea levels falling, asteroid impact, volcanic activity, but the result is often similar. So the result often causes climate change, changes such as desertification, and it causes change in temperature. Now, we're currently, according to scientists, entering or in the Holocene extinction, because it's currently predicted that our extinction rates are much higher than they should be. And they think that 25% of all plant and animal species have actually gone extinct in the 30 years since 1985. Now, obviously, the difference here is this is the first anthropocentric caused extinction. And the likelihood is that humans are causing it due to habitat destruction, climate change, introducing species or outcompeting species ourselves, and predation. The results of this are causing temperature changes, desertification and shifts of biomes, frequent heat waves, fires, and the loss of habitat and biodiversity. So why is this happening? Well, humans, wherever we go, transform the environment. We pollute the environment with our wastes. We introduce new species that we might not, which might damage the local habitat and wildlife, and we overexploit, whether that's eating them or using resources for our own benefit. And you can see here how the risk is rising. So the number of endangered species is constantly going up as we go through the years and damage more habitat and use more resources. Here you can see land is being destroyed, species being overexploited. Invasive species have a key role because we keep introducing new species to areas where they shouldn't actually exist. They're not native and they damage the overall biodiversity as a result. There are obviously, as in anything, winners and losers. You can see here how life has changed. 10,000 years ago, there was 1% humans, 99% wild animals, whereas now there is 32% of life on the planet is humans, 67% is livestock, and only 1% of the wildlife biomass on the planet, in terms of vertebrate mass, is wild animals. Some species, however, will always prevail, and they're called weedy species, ones that can survive in harsh conditions and therefore thrive. Examples of this could be rats and domesticated animals for humans.